So I'm Rachel de Guzman, I'm the Director of Engagement here at Geva, and I'm very pleased to be here with Sarah Yarger. We've been talking about this since last summer, right? About having this conversation. As soon as I read the plays for the season, I was so excited about Russian Troll Fire. I hadn't seen it. I wasn't one of the people that saw it when it was on, when it was streamed live and for which it won an Emmy Award this year. I did not see it, but I did read the play. It was intriguing to me. And so I was trying to think, what kind of conversations could we have and with whom? And actually I learned more about our city than I knew. I learned that we had a cybersecurity program at RIT, and then Sarah and I started talking about it. And she was the obvious person to have this conversation with. So, Sarah, I think we'll just start her, if you want to read more about her bio and who she is. I mean, you can tell them a little about who you are, but it's in the program. But I was just tremendously fascinated. And if you've never been over to RIT's cybersecurity building, and I don't know how open it is, it's amazing. And they have this simulation room, which Sarah has told me she has to make up fake news for the simulation sometimes. So I'm going to actually turn this conversation over to Sarah and just have her talk a little bit about what she does, and then about cybersecurity and its connection to this play. And then we'll talk about the play.
Thanks, Rachel. I really appreciate you inviting me here tonight as a speaker, and thank you so much too for joining us after. I know it's a little bit of an awkward location for you, and also there was a lot to take in already with the amazing show. I know I saw it on Saturday for the first time when I just came away, kind of feeling like, wow, that was a lot to take in, and I can't wait to have a conversation about it. So. I am one of the co-directors for the SAFE Lab over at RIT's Cybersecurity Center. It's a new center actually in the past 2 years that was built, and it's a brand new facility for all of our cybersecurity students, both our undergrads and graduate level scholars. And it is fun. Rachel did get kind of a mini preview of some of its capabilities. We have this fabulous space in there that actually represents a working lab where you can simulate different training scenarios. So we've actually had the ability to bring in different companies and put them through some live hands-on training experiences where we can kind of turn up the heat physically in the space and really make them sweat as they have to work through a cybersecurity event that is kind of staged as if they were in their own workspace, and see what they can do, how they think on their feet, how they work together as a team. And when we put them through this kind of like training scenario, it gives them the ability to work outside of their comfort zone in a safe space though. We like to call it failing forward, so that they're there, they're in kind of a crazy space, stuff is literally blowing up around them. We have the ability to actually make tables shake, can simulate sound effects, all kinds of like lighting effects, things that you would experience in an actual, like an actual cyber security desk operations center, but with much lower stakes value, right? So we've had a really good time over there, having some businesses, local and non-local, come in, partner with us, and do some trainings there. Our students also have the ability to use those facilities and learn within that space as well. So it's a really unique center. It's one of very few actually that exist in the country that's built out for such a purpose. So I feel very fortunate to be able to work there and to see it every day. So as Rachel said, is it open? Is it not open? Definitely come by. People are always there. We have some great people on staff. If you're interested in having a tour, just kind of poke in and see if there's something there. We're always happy to take people through. We also have some great days that are open up to the public. We have some like Imagine days that are really fun times for the public to come and actually get engaged with our students and learn about what they're researching there on the campus. That is by far the most interesting thing to come and see great. What's going on in the building? Much more interesting. Our students are, doing some of the most cutting edge research out there in the world of cyber, and I just feel privileged to be a part of it and get to be, working side by side with them. So happy to be here tonight and talk more about the world of cyber, and especially in relation to, things like we saw tonight. Lots to talk about with both things with the 2016 election, today election, trolling in general.
Before you get into that, I want you to talk a little bit about the competency competition.
Absolutely.
Because that's actually what brought me to her.
Excellent point. Yes, we also, I should say, RIT is the creator of a competition called it's called CPGC, for the Collegiate Penetration Testing Competition, and it is the only competition out there that teaches kids who are at the collegiate level, undergrad, to basically access the network, penetrate the network, and then write up a network report as they would in the real world at a business level. So it's very unique in the sense that it's real world. It's not just a hacking competition, but they actually need to do something that they would be expected to do at a job level. So what we do is we have a whole team of volunteers who gets together every year and basically creates a virtual network. And it's modeled after a different industry. So this past one that we just did was, let's see, what should we do? Well, we had a bakery this past one, and it was kind of a bakery gone crazy. So it was a manufacturing company that did baked goods, and the idea was that we set up this entire scenario in which we have everything from like a point of sale system to like distribution system, all the network components that are involved in that business, and then that's put out there for the kids who sign up for this competition, and it's up to them to gather as much information as they can, and they need to test the network to the best of their ability with all the tools that they have available to them. So they're looking for all the vulnerabilities that they can discover on this network. They expose those vulnerabilities. They can do what they can to kind of like crack into anything else on there. Sometimes there's some Easter eggs that we put in there. Like we've had some situations where we had, if they wonk this control out of control, like they get extra like brownies will fly off of conveyor belts, they can like stock up on this and that. But they write all this up in an actual report that's an industry level report that then is scored by people at the industry level. So people who are working in industry who actually do pen testing in the real world for businesses look at these reports, and students have to get up, make a presentation in front of these industry level officials with their findings of this network. And they're scored based on what they find. So it's a fun time for them to get together with other, similar, like-minded, hacker students, right? But from all over the world. They come to RIT, they get to be in our center, they get to be a part of like a new building, get to see all the fun, stuff we have going on there, and also get this real world experience. So that's really, one of the fun things RIT offers. That's part of our kind of hands-on initiatives that a lot of colleges who are doing cyber don't offer.
So Russian troll.
Oh yeah, Russian troll farm. Let's bring it back. So what can I talk to you about for Russian troll farm?
I don't know, I think just, you say that you simulate fake news.
Yes.
For your students. Can you talk a little bit about what that meant when you were watching this play, and how authentic it felt to you, and how valuable that is from the perspective of people viewing the play, I guess. Getting a window into that world.
Sure. Yeah, I guess for me, as somebody who works in cybersecurity in the industry, this play drives a lot of fear into my heart. Because, I see, this, and I see what I'm seeing, behind the curtain, so to speak, as well. And, it's amazing, right? How do we know, there was a question there, what do we know? How do we know what is true, right? What is true? How do we know that what we're just thinking isn't what is true? I think there's a lot of question about, fact checking and what really is at play. Right now, even, there's been a lot of discussion that's come out just in the spring about whether, whether the IRA, was this really even the reason for? Like, did Russia really play a big factor in the election results in 2016 or not? They're still looking at this, right? There's still forensic examination being done into the data as to whether there was that much of an impact or not. Or were the circumstances just sort of right for Russia to kind of get in there and meddle with things? And now, originally when there were investigations done back in 2018 as to how much of an impact did, the Russian troll farm that was exposed, right, have into the election. Yes, they were saying, yes, oh, it really did have a big impact. There was a bunch of influence on through Facebook, right? There were tons of accounts that were created that were not real. They were created by Russian trolls, and they were used to influence people to, change their votes and change their opinions and get people fired up. There were whole rallies held, right, in favor of Trump because of Russian troll farm. Yes, all that was true, but now new reports, just as of January 2023, have come out to show, yeah, that may have been true. However, this data has shown that actually there really wasn't that much data to show that it actually changed anything that wasn't already available. People were already trending in the way of, supporting Trump. Russia's impact had very little to do with where things were going to end up actually in the long run. So it's like this thing that has continued to grow, and this whole idea of cyber, forensics is a larger picture that just gets bigger and bigger as newer and newer technology comes out. And I think what's interesting to me is that it's just going to be a larger conversation that we continue to have, especially as we go into more elections and just larger, larger conversations in general, for example. I mean, back to sources, it's kind of like how do we continue to determine what is a true source and who is from and what isn't. It's something that the industry as a whole is facing as a challenge right now.
Yes. So when I first read Russian Troll Farm, one of the things that struck me was how the play itself sort of humanizes the trolls. That the trolls are really everyday people that are put into this propaganda machine. From your perspective, how much more powerful is the internet and cyber world as a tool than some of the other propaganda machines that have been used? I mean, propaganda is not new.
Right.
And disruption and people embedding themselves in causes and all of that. That's not new. So is it overblown for us to fear, from your perspective as someone who works in this world, to have that much more fear than we have in the past about propaganda and organized propaganda and, especially from people who are our foes? Is it an escalation? Enough of an escalation that it's scary?
No, I'm not sure that, No, I think that's a good question to ask. It's not, is it more that it's scarier? Because like you said, propaganda has existed forever. And it's like the places plus propaganda, or is it just politics? But really, I think it's a question of how it's being used, right? And now we're looking at this newer and faster technology. I don't know how many of you might be familiar with the idea, or with the term chat GPT, just to show that started to just now kind of creep out. It's this idea that there's basically, think about it in terms of like a bot, okay, that you could type a question to, all right? It's like an AI And instead of just it kind of like typing back just a quick response, this is like another level of response where it's able to basically simulate a human response to a level that's almost indistinguishable from that of a real human response. ChatGPT is an open AI platform that's out there. You can actually look it up. I encourage actually everyone to go and look up just open AI.
AI being artificial intelligence.
Yes. Artificial intelligence. It's ChatGPT. ChatGPT. If you go just Google it, they'll bring up their website. They do a lot of research to really expose this new technology that's out there. And it will actually summarize just about any kind of question that you ask it in a very human-like response now. It is actually to the level where it can summarize whole books, novels, at the level of an English major. Indistinguishable from something that's been written by an actual human. So you're coming to the point now where it's like a question of, is it propaganda, but it's also, who's generating it? How do you know when it's real, when it's fake? It's so easy now. It used to cost when they were doing, they used to say that the Russian troll farm at the height, during the campaign madness, the lead up to the 2016 campaign, it was $1 million a month, that they were spending, right? Now, this can be done. You can have your own AI type bot for less than that, permanently. And everyone can have one. So you're looking at this like ability to create these just non-sentient, right? Little chatbots that can just take information from all over the internet and collect it and distribute it in these perfectly curated formats that read like real news. And then you can just publish that everywhere. So this is where I'm like, this is the cyber like panic on my side, right? Where I'm like, okay, how do we and the real like crime fighter side of things like make sure that we're somehow checking this, right? What can we do to make sure that like cyber-wise we are putting in regulations, and stopgaps in place to make sure that technology doesn't get so far ahead that it becomes problematic, right? We want technology always in mind to serve us, right? Not for us to serve it. So that's something that, like, I think our biggest focus, at RIT right now is, tempering, keeping that balance in regards to content, especially.
I think we've changed from the 20th century to the 21st century with Y2K. So I think that it's an ongoing question of, where are we going with this? Do you see this more as a challenge and something that is in that ongoing question of what happens when or if? Or do you see this as a particular threat with the AI intelligence?
I think that it, like within the cyber community as a whole, people feel that this is a bit of a threat, right? It's a challenge. How are we going to meet this challenge? And I think that people are responding. I think that the technology growing so quickly is now really challenging people to say, wow, we really need to play catch up and say, what do we really want to see, in terms of regulation, and how do we protect ourselves? How do we protect people? How do we protect government? How do we protect, companies? And it's actually starting, I think, to light the fire in terms of regulation, where we haven't seen regulation in the past. Like historically, we've been behind in terms of just having regulation for cyber type policies, and just even this last week, the government has now started to push policy for just basic cyber crime that we've been asking for many years. So, I think that some of this can be a good thing.
Well, our post conversations are around 30 minutes, and I think we're at that point. And we have a time to. You still have a few more minutes. But I just want to tell you before we continue the conversation that on March 14th, Sarah's back, but this time she's the moderator, and we have a hacker panel coming, where she will be speaking with some of the people who are involved in this work and talking about hacking, because I think that in order to fight hacking, if I'm correct, you have to learn how to hack.
Absolutely.
And so I thought that that would be another way to connect to this play and really kind of pull the curtain back and about what people are doing and what hacking actually is. I'm going to be eager, I'm going to be sitting here kind of, or sitting there at this point, listening, because I'm fascinated by all of this. But you started talking a little bit about what we're doing now to regulate it. Does regulation work? Does regulation work in a cyber world? It's not really like typical, like going here to Canada or, taking a flight over to another country where everything is more global. How do you work on cyber policies from a national level when it's really a worldwide issue?
It's interesting. It's definitely interesting, and I think that is, cyber definitely does cross borders, right? And it gives us as a community more opportunities to work at a global level, I think. And I think we're forced to work just more at that level, right? And it works really, as most policies do, at a monetary. Ultimately, is what people go for enforcement. And I mean, I think the panel will be really that's something we can talk about more, in terms of, what works, what doesn't work. There's a lot of, there's kind of the larger level, right, like cyber policy, and then there's, the messier level, the nitty-gritty level that, people experience when, you walk home and all of a sudden you can't get on your computer because someone's, got you ransomware. And like, what do you do then? Like, who's helping you there? And that's what the government's starting to do. That's what we're starting to see a little bit more of. We're starting to see some more like federal level type policy coming through, which is good. But just trying to even catch up on that level is where we're hoping that there's more recognition for that, because there's just not a lot of like, honestly, cybercrime right now still is one of those things that people are just not totally clear on what it is. Actors, right? They kind of live behind the computer screen. It's harder to prosecute those people, right? So
talk about it from a geographical level or countries. In this play, it's focused on what an imaginary troll farm in Russia, but it's based on things we know exist. Where is this happening? Is it all happening in Russia? Is it happening in China? Is it happening in the U.S.? Is it happening where people were calling people from Nigeria and telling them that that their
it's tricky.
I mean, uncle died, or that if they support this prince, that they get the money. I mean, where is it? Is it all over the globe, or are there places where it's more prevalent?
It's tough. I mean, the actual Russian troll farm that this play is like modeled on, right? Was actually in Russia. It was in Russia in St. Petersburg, the building now sits for rent. And then, there are the additional Russian troll farms that have been found, been offshore, and now it was in Western African nations, and been host to several areas of, Russian troll farms, and they moved around to try and throw people off at the global level. So it can happen all over, really, wherever it's convenient and under the radar. But at the individual level, it gets tricky too. I mean, then you're talking people can be anywhere, located, around the globe. I mean, with the advent of the Tor network, for example, where you can literally mask your location using basically a network that allows you to hide behind a network of other computers. You can literally be sitting next to me bring down, and regulate a lot of cyber activity, I think.
How much cyber activity is coming from nations and how much of it is more mercenary?
Right, like which actors? It's a good question. It's different types, right? It's different levels. I think that the interests are different. But we see it at all levels. The work that I used to do, I work more at a governmental level, and it depends really what sector of work you're in. It's happening everywhere. If you're looking at it on the individual level, people are being targeted. Your next door neighbor is just as much as a target, for like a basic, credit card fraud type of scheme, as, a nation state type actor is for human rights.
Where would you place cybersecurity? Like, how people go, people's kids go to college and it's like, okay, what's the hot industry now?
Mm-hmm.
And how would you place, what did cybersecurity kind of replace like 20 years ago?
That's a good question. I'd be curious about, public opinion on that.
And if that, since we're opening it up to the audience, certainly, you can certainly answer that question or weigh in on that question. Or anything else, Sarah, another question?
I mean, it's definitely our burgeoning, at RIT, I can say, specifically, it's our, it's our largest growing major. I mean, obviously, it's the most underserved job force right now in the nation and worldwide. I mean, nationally, we have over 650,000 job openings in the cyber sector alone. So it's fastest growing. It will continue to be the fastest growing as, the need deepens. I wouldn't say that it necessarily has replaced anything as much as it has, it's just...
I just meant it's the hottest.
It's definitely a hot ticket.
It probably is, 20 years ago, probably computer programming.
Yes, we still have computer science and, computer science students, no question. That's still our huge major at RIT. I wouldn't say that that's necessarily dropped off, but I will say that computer science majors come in and they definitely want a double major or they definitely want a minor in cybersecurity, whereas that wasn't an option before. So that's definitely a trend.
So from realism, did it feel like a lot? I know that it's dramatic and certainly you don't have the simulation room that you would have. Go to RIT. It's a trip. I feel like I was at a movie set. It was really mind-blowing, and especially there's this menu of the types of simulations that you can have. I think you showed me like maybe 3 or 4 of them, but I know there are many more. But how did it feel to you? Even though you're such in the know, did it feel kind of real to you?
Yeah, I'm obviously self-professed cyber nerd, but I really enjoy our trainings. I enjoy mostly when we've had some trainings in there where people have told me that they can't tell whether it's real or not. There's definitely some moments where there's an awkward feeling in the room where people are wait, is this a training or is this really happening? Is there really an issue happening in this culture right now, or is this still part of the training? And I love that because I can tell that people are really immersed then, and I know they're really feeling the stress of an event. Oh my gosh, are we really under attack? Are we really under cyber attack? So that to me is when it gets fun because you really get to see people feel oh wow, this is really different.
There seems to be no control over it, is there? Somebody could write above me and say, oh, well, report this. And I say, my God, that's not great. That's not me.
Yeah, the comment was just that there seems to be really no control over what people could write or say about you, especially in the online space,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Correct?
yes.
And it's just, what do you do? That's just out there. What recourse do you have?
I taught at RIT for 29 years. When I was teaching English, to the
the dep at RIT,
Yes.
29 years.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Wow, thank you. That's incredible.
It's
Oh, yeah.
sometimes feels it now.
No, that's, wow. Thank you. That's really amazing.
Then they had to go to the library and actually copy out what they were going to copy.
I'm telling
They
you,
didn't have, they actually printed papers for them.
they have no idea how good they have it these days, these kids. And they are working us. Because we're all like, what do you mean you just asked AI to write your essay? What are we supposed to do with that? Yeah, no, it's definitely posing a whole new, sphere of questions across the board. You're lucky that you got out when you did.
So we have one more question, and then we're gonna,
Yeah, sorry to go backwards, but did you say 650,000 open cybersecurity positions?
Yes.
Is that from a
Just-
new demand or just lack of qualified candidates or both or something different?
Both.
Jesus, is that,
And that's a
Crazy, or is it just
conservative
me?
number. That's a very conservative number.
wow,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, if you need a job. Yeah, no, it is literally the fastest growing, job sector. And the government literally cannot put enough money into it. There's just not enough people who are qualified. Can't train people fast enough.
I wouldn't know if the United States is the same folks that were speaking about Russia.
I'm sorry.
Are we involved in it? Are we doing the same thing?
Are we doing what the Russians are doing in terms of being, housing troll farms?
Yeah.
Ah, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I think we've got a good subset of people who know how to troll here. Judging by the things I see in the students' spare time, I guess they're trolls. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, I mean, in terms of being able to influence elections and, dedicating time, space, and activity, yeah, there's definitely a good amount of energy here spent to that. Whether it's government funded, that's not something I have expertise on. I mean, I would like to think that that is not something that we are necessarily spending time on. However, yeah. Anything's possible.
I want to thank you, Sarah, and I can't wait till next week, Tuesday. And if anyone, you don't have to come to the play again, but if you'd like, I think it'll be around 9:45. We'll have the hacker panel, and you can come back to that without a ticket if you wanted to come back next week.
Is it online?
Yes, we will be taping the hacker panel too, so just check give us a few days, like to the next week, for us to get it edited and up on our YouTube channel. But we will be putting that up also for the hacker panel. So yeah, you don't have to come back out here. You might have a snowstorm. I don't know what's going to be happening. But thank you all for staying, and thank you so much, Sarah, for lending your expertise and perspective to this conversation about Russian troll farms.